Hello? Hello? Okay. Mic is working. Cool. So from the team DataVerze side, I welcome you all to this fascinating topic of GenAI guardrails. Few disclaimers here. I am in this software industry for 20 years. I generally talk to mostly engineers who code. This is my first time talking to such an experienced audience. So bear with me. I am trying to share some of our insights working with CTOs and CXOs in our day-to-day interactions with customers and the kind of problems they face when they try to embrace GenAI in general. And I'm really happy that I took this opportunity to come here today. I think I will get more back than what I will share now with you guys. I think wonderful speakers like Delna spoke about a customer experience. I learned a bit about how to package your storytelling from her. Vaibhav and Sachin explained a lot of topics which are overlapping with what I'm going to talk today. So some of my burden is relaxed. So when it comes to GenAI and customer experience, I think one thing is clear that a lot of us have anxiety in terms of what is this GenAI. Some people say that it is a risk. Some people say this is the next future. Whatever you say, you love it or hate it, I think you cannot ignore it. And if you are not going to do it, your customers are going to do it. So I think we have very less options when it comes to GenAI. At least I think we should be aware. And we'll talk about what do we mean by guardrails, what are the common patterns industry as a whole has learned over a few months, I would say not years, because this is a relatively very new area. And we'll also close this session by posing some other questions which still people don't have answers to. That is even more important to understand when it comes to GenAI. So with that, okay. So some of my slides might sound like ridiculing or sarcastic, but that's not intention. Intention is to help you understand the risks and share the experiences. And obviously it is not to sell anything by inducing fear. So brief about DataVerze. So we do data and AI and ML. Though we are a startup, there is a strong past record of working in this space. Focus currently is on mostly GenAI. I work with DataVerze as a solution architect. So that's a brief introduction about us. We are short on time, so I will just rush through. Okay, so how many of you have been in this discussion where people say that let's do AI? And when they say this, I think the focus is on selling something, right? And then no matter what, right? You just need to introduce AI somehow and hit the press, right? So some of the examples could be we have this menu-driven bot that we need to convert overnight to a natural language interface bot. And the story starts from here. So I will try to build a story around what is a typical CXO journey around GenAI looks like, what emotions are carried through this journey, where he can falter and how we can help. So let's get going. So the first question is, whenever you face this, right, how do you build it? How much time does it take? Can I build it like a quick prototype? Can I get feedback? What kind of people I need? Who can I partner with, right? So you start searching for things, right? If you are fortunate enough to have in-house tech team, you start hunting for people. So typically put some kind of a challenge to hire these kind of people, and then not that we hire like this, but just for fun. So you'll need at least 3 kind of people to support your GenAI journey. Now, by any chance, if you can answer this, I think you're qualified GenAI engineers. So some of those who got this answer, I think you should be proud of yourself. Now the third category, which is GenAI, is typically very new. Data science was there, NLP was there. What has changed in these few weeks or few months is the GenAI landscape. Now finding those people is not very easy. They come very costly, and having maturity is also another challenge. And if you're one of, like kind of me, probably you fit into the second category, right? So when somebody asks about what is a transformer, people would answer either 1 or 2. And those who can answer like 3, probably those are the people who would probably want to work with. So now there is another dilemma that CTOs typically have, or people who are building these teams, is every time you open some technology blog, you will find some kid just out of college building these apps. So you have a question in mind, is it supposed to be difficult? If the kid is doing it, it has to be easy, right? So what is the problem? So now the answer is there is such a huge exploding ecosystem around building GenAI applications. Some of these companies should get credit for that. And the developer ecosystem is evolving like crazy. Now, how many times have you seen a company reaching $86 billion in just 2 years? So that's incredible. Now coming to the sad part of it, right? So when you say LLM, basically large language models, which power these GenAI applications, are very powerful. Is that a problem? Or teams can build fast, like said, like kid can do this. Is that a problem? Let's see what is the problem. Now, any technology which is a breakthrough always has a responsibility aspect. Now, anything that comes with power, you need to be very careful when handling it, right? So LLMs are no exceptions. In fact, they have more dangerous potential when it comes to being harmful. Now, why are they like this, right? Some of you might relate to this, right? Some people talk about hallucination, right? So training data is not known. They're not predictable. Sometimes they answer differently, sometimes very differently. Bias is another problem that we have seen some panel members talk about. A lot of times you have to make a choice, right? Which model is good? So you have benchmarks. Now the challenge with benchmarks is people have also learned to game these benchmarks as the human tendency is. So it's very difficult to choose these models. And when you choose it, it's not easy to tame this beast. This is one problem, right? Now what is the other problem? Now this attributes to the engineering community as a whole. When you embrace something and in the race of building it fast, we forgot to put fences. A good example could be a Jurassic Park, an exciting place to be in, but would you visit it if it had no fences? Now what does it mean as a business, right? So some of you might already been into that space where hallucination or sharing wrong information, leakage of sensitive data, offending people with toxic information or not being very helpful. Obviously it is very dangerous for your company reputation. So there's so many risks associated with. And if you are into something like healthcare or aviation, putting this into decision-making systems could be little dangerous than just maybe having a bug in some system, right? So now, like we said, that this is a journey of a person or a CXO to embrace GenAI. He has no choice. Now, there comes a time where we wish, right? There could be somebody who could guide me, right? And then help me through the journey. And let's say that you have access to such a genie, you're a lucky one. The first thing is you are not alone. There are so many people doing this. And good news is the industry has patterns around it. It's not something that is completely solved problem, but there are patterns that you can use it. So let's dive in and see what are those. Now, so this is, again, this is my engineer in me. So we don't need to understand all these blocks. Based on what you're trying to optimize and what we are trying to reduce, we'll probably focus on that. So defense UX is one we'll zoom in. Guardrails, obviously, we'll zoom in. Some of the other topics could be maybe in a talk in itself. We'll park that for now. So let's dive into the defensive UX part of it. Yeah. So now we'll see the guardrails in a bit, and we'll understand that no matter how many guardrails you put, there is a chance that this system will still have issues. Now, what you do when such things happen? So you have to embrace that failure, assume that sometimes things will go wrong, and how will you protect that? So the answer is designing your customer interaction or interface in a defensive way. So instead of investing too much on technology and the deep tech around LLMs, I think we have to take a step back and see what is my experience from a customer's point of view. And there are patterns from Microsoft, Google, and Apple when it comes to very unique patterns for AI interaction with human. So I will not go into detail, but if you are really interested what these big guys are doing, These are the pointers you should definitely check out. Now some examples could be simple examples like putting right disclaimers at the right place, having an option for a user to skip some of this workflow and rely on some of the traditional ways. Third is provide attribution when the data is not probably owned by you, but you are just a carrier to show pointers. That builds trust. Don't surprise your users. That's anchoring file. Now, these 3 points around here is probably engineering centric, where whatever you're building, have a feedback loop, because that's how you're going to implement improvements and you'll know what is exactly happening. Monitoring again ties to that same thing. Cascading is probably another topic where you don't rely on the own monolithic black box like OpenAI or any LLM and then delegate everything to a single endpoint. So this is defense UX. So let's step back and see what does a guardrail look like. Yeah, so again, you don't need to understand the exact flow, but the difference between without guardrails and with guardrails is, sorry, how much time do I have? 8 minutes, okay. So, so what you have on this side is there are different types of guardrails based on what you are trying to validate. That could be structural, like format of output, semantic, where what you are actually trying to, let's say you are trying to summarize something, is it really summarizing it? Content safety is another important, where you check for toxicity, information leakage. Input is to try to prevent some of the prompt attacks, right? Factuality is to reduce hallucination. Defense UX is something that we already seen. Yeah, so these are some of the software frameworks. I'll not go into detail, but if you want to really implement something at an engineering level, these are the frameworks to look for. Yeah, so once, let's say you implemented all this, right? You had the guardrails, you had defense UX. Is that the end to it, right? Or how does a software production system look like? And that's where we see challenges where people struggle to put everything in perspective. Now, that's a little scary landscape because there are so many providers. There's not a single choice. So it's still an area which is evolving. So we specialize in giving those kind of templates and accelerators where people can adopt those and at least reduce the very rookie mistakes and improve their overall maturity. Now, one of the examples there is this. Again, no need to get into detail. We can discuss this on our booth, what each component means and how did we do this. But the idea is there are platforms which can help you here, okay? And it is not just about choosing OpenAI versus something else. There is a lot of other things that you have to take care when it comes to productionizing things. Okay, so even after that, now you'll say, is that done? So unfortunately, again, there are still open questions. Now, some of this we already seen. For example, what about multimodal apps, right? So text is only one modality. What about video? What about audio? What about deepfakes, right? And unfortunately, this is an area where research is never ending. You'll still read, keep reading. Every day there is a new article published, some kind of an attack, like you see this example, right? So there is a new attack which is like an ASCII art attack. Now, very novel attack. Even the best of the models in the world were not able to catch this. It just turns a normal string into an ASCII art. So clever attack. Now this is just an example. Every day you'll find news around it. Another aspect which is very important, some of the panel members discussed about it, is bias. How do you teach machine human values? Now I generally laugh at it and say, forget about training machines on human values. Are we even successful training human values to our own fellow humans? Now what gives us confidence that we can teach machines these human values? Who defines what are the values which are worth sharing? So there's an interesting book if you are really curious and interested in understanding what this means. And so there is a book called An Alignment Problem. I will strongly recommend going through that. Beautiful anecdotes there. And I have not even started the cost aspect. Those people who are signing checks for GenAI applications definitely need to be very careful when you talk to your teams. Ask them question, what are they doing when they say, I am going to release it, right? So what are the cost guards are there, right? You don't want to be bankrupt on day 2. Now this is almost the final slide. So this is a summary, again, not the exhaustive summary, but things that is a crux of working with some of the smart people in the industry, and where we have seen people need help in understanding the extent of difference it can make. It sounds very commonsensical, but believe me, this is not very easy. So the first thing is, I think you must have already heard, is the data is your real differentiator. No matter of smart engineers you put on the project, no matter of sophisticated machinery you put, if you do not have the right data, you are not going to succeed. Your competitor is going to kill the market, right? And because the machinery is commoditized, the only moat that you have is your data. So guard it and invest in those initiatives before you even talk about AI. That's if I have to give one takeaway from this session, is that. Another is, we already talked about, don't have an over-reliance on these black box things. Prompt artistry, some of you who understand what is a prompt, what is prompt engineering will understand that. People take it very easy because it looks like an art, but when it's not a science, you are at a risk of failing very fast, right? So don't rely on these artistry things. Sorry, just 2 minutes more. So invest in red teaming and adversarial simulation. If you are working in cybersecurity or have an idea of what I mean, you'll understand what I mean. So think like a criminal, simulate attacks, try to defend, don't put things into hope that things will work out. Guardrails framework we talked about. Don't think only in terms of frameworks, understand how it fits into the overall blueprint. Some of the people who are talking, they raised this very important question, is raise awareness. So many people came to our booth, and I get a sense that there's a huge need to create awareness, not just to CXOs, but everyone in your workforce. It could be a HR person, it could be an admin person. You need to make them understand how GenAI is changing things and upskill them. And to be, from a lens of an engineer, any tools and frameworks that are coming out and advertising they're great, don't take with a pinch of salt. They don't work as advertised. Be ready to contribute and work with community. And last but not the least, remember that sounds good, ye chal raha hai, is not a solution. It is a failing grade. 99% is a failing grade when it comes to safety and security, may it be AI or otherwise. Okay, with all this, probably some of you feel that, okay, where can I get this lamp? How can I get help? So until you find your lamp, we have our own genie at our booth who can help you understand some of these tips, deep dive into some of the demos that we have around Guardrails, and not just Guardrails, but also some of the other customer segmentation use cases, and even otherwise, right? Some of the people were even discussing what is GenAI, what is ChatGPT. It's perfectly fine. We'll be happy to help you, so don't hesitate to reach us at our booth. With that, I close my talk. Thank you for listening patiently.